everyone, and welcome back to my channel, A Multilingual Baby. When you're a parent of a bilingual or multilingual child, you sometimes have to take on the role of a language teacher as well. There are different reasons for that. Perhaps you're in charge of teaching your child how to read and write in their second or third language. Or you've moved countries and now your child might need some more tutoring. Oh, and I can't believe I'm going to say it, a global pandemic has broken out and ruined your family language plan. This has happened to us. But no matter the reason, if you don't have a lot of teaching experience, this might seem a little bit daunting. So today, I thought I'd share my 10 years of language teaching experience and give you 9 tips of how to make those lessons effective and enjoyable. Alright, so here's the first tip. You might have heard that children have very short attention spans, and that's definitely true. So this is something I would keep in mind when planning the lessons. When it comes to preschoolers, so in Poland that's 3 to 6 years old, I would recommend about 15 minutes maximum per lesson. Then for young school children, so that's 7 up to 12, I would try something between 15 up to 30 minutes per lesson. Of course, this is all approximate. You'll have to observe your child and you'll see that there'll be days when even a 4-year-old might be really well focused for those 15 minutes, and perhaps you made your lesson so much fun that they want to keep going, and that's great. But having said that, there might also be a day when your 4-year-old is really tired or really bored after just 10 minutes. So in this case, I would just let it go and shorten the lesson as appropriate. Tip number 2 will be to pick the right time of the day. You know your child the best, so think, when during the day do they seem most focused? When could they most benefit from a language lesson? Also, keep in mind that tired and hungry children don't make great students, so I would avoid lessons before lunchtime or before dinner time. And once you've found the right time, make sure you stick to it so that your child knows what to expect and knows when the lesson is coming. Tip number 3 is have a plan. So what I mean by that is that you need one clear learning objective for each of your lessons. This could be something like, today we're going to learn all the ways that the sound k could be written. Or today we're going to learn about Canada. Or today we're going to revise the names of different shapes. So we have one specific goal, something that we want our child to learn in that lesson. Tip number 4 is directly linked to tip number 3. So I've just told you that you need a very specific plan, but at the same time, you need to be flexible. It might be that you've planned to teach your child all about Canada today, but they are simply not interested. For them, it's not the right day for Canada. It might be that they still want to learn, but about something else. In this case, I would just go with the flow. I think it's more important that your child is still learning something rather than sticking to that particular plan. And you can still do your thing another day when your child is more receptive and more in the mood for it. Okay, tip number 5 is probably the most important one, and it's make your lessons fun. We've all been to school, we know that lessons can sometimes be super boring, and we definitely don't want that for our children. We want them to be excited about those lessons. And so there are different ways to do it. It depends a lot on your child, on their personality, on their age. But I'm going to try and give you a few specific examples. Hopefully you'll be able to use at least one of them. So one thing we can do is have a fun element as part of each lesson. So in my case, what I do is I let my child bring a toy to our lessons, and we spend the first 2 to 3 minutes just talking about the toy. He basically does a mini show and tell, and he treats me like his teacher here more than a mom. So he will tell me about his toy and what it can do and how he plays with it, as if I didn't know it. And for him, that's super fun. And you know, when it's time for our lessons, he gets excited because he's already thinking, okay, what can I bring today? But it can be a different fun element. Perhaps you have a secret handshake that you could always do, or perhaps there is a song you both love and you sing it at the beginning or at the end of the lesson. You could also have a chart where your child puts some stickers. Whatever it is, make sure that it's always a part of your lesson. So it's something to look forward to. Another thing we can do, and it's again something that we could incorporate in all our lessons, is making whatever we teach into a game. So again, there will be lots of different possibilities here, but let me give you a few specific examples. Let's say you've chosen to teach that k sound today. And so first you spend some time explaining how we can write it as a C, as a CH, or as a K in English. And you've checked your child's understanding, it's all clear. So now think of some kind of game that could still incorporate that sound k. And one thing I've noticed when teaching children is that they absolutely love anything that has a time limit to it or an element of competition. So in this case, what we could do is we could, for example, set a timer for 1 minute and say, all right, let's see in that 1 minute, how many things could we bring to the table that start with the sound k? Or we could make it into a little competition and say, all right, let's see who's going to be first to find something that starts with the sound k and bring it here to the table. And these kind of things are super fun for children. It makes the lesson much more enjoyable, and for you as well, you see, it's just fun. All right, moving on to tip number 6. We want those lessons to be interactive. Remember, it's not a lecture, it really should be an exchange. So one thing to do is ask a lot of questions. And here we could use a method called TTT, test, teach, test. It sounds very official, but all it is really checking what your student, here your child, knows before you start teaching them. So let's say it's that day when you've chosen to teach them about Canada. Rather than telling them all about Canada, first ask. And you can ask open questions, but with very young children, you might have to nudge them a little. So you could ask specifically, for example, about the Canadian flag. Do they know the colors of the Canadian flag? And if you can see they're very unsure, you can give them multiple choice, you know. Do you think the Canadian flag is red and white or blue and white? Also, get your child really involved in the lesson. Make them participate by drawing, cutting things out, doing all kinds of arts and crafts. So in this example of a lesson about Canada, you could then draw or paint that Canadian flag. You could cut it out and hang it somewhere. You could also open an atlas and look at where Canada is in the world, or perhaps if you have a globe, you could do the same. So anything that gets the child moving a little bit and participating as much as they can. Tip number 7 is keep it positive. Of course, if you're doing all the things that we've already discussed, with plenty of fun elements and games in your lessons, it should naturally feel pretty positive. But what I mean here is also keep it positive in terms of praise. It's very important that when your child does something well in the lesson, you give them specific praise on that. And of course, there will be times when your child makes mistakes and does something wrong, but try not to fixate on those moments. And when you want to correct a specific mistake, rather than stopping your child and saying, no, that's wrong, or no, that's not how you say it, try repeating what they've said, but in the correct way. This way, the child will hear the correct way of saying something, but you will not put them down by focusing on the mistake they've made. And I promise you, if you model like this regularly, they will get it and they will self-correct in the future. Okay, so we're close to the end. We are at tip number 8. And it's to turn some of your lessons into fun activities. Let me give you a few examples again. So let's say that you're in charge of tutoring your child in maths. And yes, of course, there will be those times where you have to sit down, explain something clearly and practice, you know, on paper or using a calculator or whatever it is that your child needs to know. But then sometimes you could think of another way of practicing counting or addition or whatever it is that your child is learning. So for example, you could do a lesson where you basically just play shop with your child and they are the shop assistant and no credit cards are allowed, so that they always have to calculate the correct change they need to give you. Or you might want to do some baking together. When you're baking, there's always some counting to be done. You know, you need to measure different ingredients, you need to count the eggs or the fruit or whatever. So that could be another fun way to do it. Also, pretty much while teaching anything, You could make it into a fun outing. You could take your child outside, you could take a picnic blanket, have some snacks, and your child will learn why outdoors in nature and enjoying their time in the sun. And the last tip of the day, tip number 9, is to revise constantly. I'm sure you've heard or you've noticed that children can learn things very quickly, and that's true, but they also forget things very quickly. So what we need to do if we do lessons with them regularly is to always revise what we learned previously. So try to incorporate that in your lesson plan. So let's say today you're learning about Australia. Make sure you first ask your child what they can remember about Canada. Or if you're studying the P sound today, perhaps first you need to check if they remember the K sound and can give you some examples of different words beginning with that sound. So whatever it is that you're teaching, always make sure that you revise, that you repeat the same information, and you keep checking if your child can remember it. Alright, so here we go. Those were the 9 tips. Please let me know in the comments below if you used any of them and how it worked out. I'd love to hear from you. And also just to let you know, next time I'll be doing an episode answering various questions that parents of bilingual children have on multilingualism and raising your child in multiple languages. So if you have any specific questions, please let me know also either in the comments below or via my email address, which is available on the channel. Thanks very much for watching today and see you next time. Bye!